This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. Good morning, I'm John Trout. It's Monday, November 18th, 2024. Here's what's coming up on America in the Morning.
Lawmakers take to the Sunday shows to react to some of President-elect Donald Trump's potential cabinet nominees. I'm John Stolnis in Washington.
President Biden has authorized the use of U.S.-supplied long-range missiles by Ukraine. I'm Julie Walker.
Election year 2024 defied the odds.
Look what happened. Is this crazy?
I'm Jackie Quinn.
State and community leaders responding to a neo-Nazi march in Ohio.
Not going to hide behind a mask.
I'm Clayton Nettle.
Investors, businesses, and consumers are all trying to figure out what the upcoming change in presidential administrations means for their wallets. I'm Peter Schacknow.
A shelter in New Hampshire is facing an enormous mouse problem. I'm Ed Donahue.
All ahead on America in the Morning. Reaction among lawmakers in the nation's capital to President-elect Donald Trump's selections for important cabinet positions was front and center on the Sunday shows this weekend. John Stolnis has a recap from Washington.
Two of the most controversial Trump selections, former Congressman Matt Gaetz for Attorney General and his pick to head the Pentagon as Defense Secretary, Pete Hegseth, are receiving the most attention from lawmakers. California Senator-elect Adam Schiff on CNN's State of the Union, incredulous at the Gaetz selection.
I think he's not only unqualified, he is really disqualified. Are we really going to have an Attorney General who there's credible allegations he was involved in child sex trafficking, potential illicit drug use, obstruction of investigation, who has no experience serving in the Justice Department, only being investigated by it?
House Speaker Mike Johnson on CNN's State of the Union sounding bullish about the pick.
The reason that Matt Gaetz is such an exciting pick to so many people is because he will go in and reform the Department of Justice. It desperately needs it.
A House ethics report concerning accusations against Gaetz on charges of sex trafficking and using illegal drugs has been completed, but his resignation from Congress last week prevented the release of that report. Republican Senator Markwayne Mullin on NBC's Meet the Press calls on the House to release the ethics report on Gaetz to the Senate Judiciary Committee.
Should the House Ethics Committee release that report, Senator?
Absolutely, and I believe the Senate should have access to that. Now, should it be released to the public or not? That's I guess that will be part of the negotiations.
As for Hegseth, a report in the Washington Post over the weekend claimed he paid off a woman who accused him of sexual assault back in 2017. His lawyer claims they paid her to keep her from spreading a false story in an attempt to get him fired from Fox News. Mullin was asked if this revelation could hurt Hegseth's chances of being confirmed.
As allegations come out, we'll figure out if, as the Senate moves forward with the advise and consent to the President of the United States and doing our constitutional duties, we'll figure out if he can get confirmed or not. And I do think that Pete's a good pick for this position.
Democratic Senator-elect Alyssa Slotkin on ABC's This Week says she's concerned Hegseth would turn the military into a political football.
You can imagine the stress in the Pentagon about that, but also on the future of who we are as a military, right? Our military and the role of the military is in the Constitution for a reason, and I think we're really at risk of politicizing the military in a way that we can't put the genie back in the bottle.
John Stolnis, Washington.
In a major shift of U.S. policy and following an onslaught of drone and missile attacks by the Kremlin against power facilities and infrastructure in Ukraine, President Biden will now allow Kyiv to use U.S.-supplied long-range missiles against Vladimir Putin's military targets, which could include North Korean troops fighting alongside Russian forces. Correspondent Julie Walker reports. Audio courtesy of Sky News UK.
In a major U.S. policy shift, President Biden has for the first time authorized the use of U.S.-supplied long-range missiles by Ukraine to strike inside Russia.
План посилення України – це план перемоги.
The plan to strengthen Ukraine is the victory plan, which I presented to our partners. One of its key points is long-range capabilities for our army. Today, there's a lot of talk in the media about us receiving permission for respective actions. But strikes are not carried out with words. Such things are not announced. Missiles will speak for themselves. They certainly will.
That's according to one U.S. official and 3 people familiar with the matter. The decision comes as Biden is about to leave office and incoming President-elect Donald Trump has said he would bring about a swift end to the war and has expressed skepticism over continued support by the United States. The weapons are likely to be used in response to North Korea's decision to send thousands of troops to Russia in support of Russia's invasion of Ukraine. I'm Julie Walker.
Today's top stories are brought to you by Sleep Number. Why choose a Sleep Number smart bed? It's the only bed that lets you make each side firmer or softer whenever you want. Save 40% on the Sleep Number Special Edition smart bed. To find a store near you, visit sleepnumber.com. Nazi March in Ohio. That's when America in the Morning continues after these messages. This is America in the Morning, tracking the latest storm system. AccuWeather.com meteorologist Matt Rindy with the national forecast.
A powerful storm will continue to move into the Plains states today. Its impacts will be widespread, with heavy, gusty thunderstorms moving through central and eastern Texas this morning, and rain through the central plains will continue spreading into the northern plains into the Great Lakes late today. A few of the thunderstorms in Texas will have the potential to produce damaging winds, flash flooding, hail, and even a tornado. The rain farther north will become heavy at times, especially through northern Oklahoma into eastern Kansas, Nebraska, and western Iowa. Some local flooding is possible from that as well. And the rain will continue to build toward the Canadian border tonight, with colder air wrapping into the system, causing rain to change to snow in parts of North Dakota. That colder air is in part from a second storm moving through the northern Rockies. This will cause rain and snow showers through Nevada into Idaho, Montana, Utah, and Wyoming. Some of the higher elevations could receive several inches of snow, and these areas will be about 5 to 15 degrees below their historical average. Where it will be milder across the country is mostly in the eastern two-thirds of the country. Even in areas where rain is expected today, most places will remain mild, with highs in the 50s and 60s in northern states from Minnesota into southern New England, and warming to the 70s and 80s farther south from southeast Texas into the Gulf Coast and Florida. Most areas will be dry from the southeast into the mid-Atlantic, with just a few showers in New York and New England. That's the weather across America. It is going to be a mild day in Meridian, Mississippi today, with a mixture of clouds and sun and a high of 79. Elko, Nevada will be on the colder side, with plenty of clouds and a snow shower or two and a high of 34. That's the nation's weather. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist Matt Rindy.
Follow us wherever you get your podcasts. Apple, Spotify, Amazon, and YouTube. Just search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. I'm John Trout. More details are being learned as to what helped propel Donald Trump to his election victory, including a larger than expected Republican voter turnout. Correspondent Jackie Quinn is looking at the numbers.
Election year 2024 defied the odds and the adage that Republican candidates don't fare as well when there's high voter turnout.
Look what happened. Is this crazy?
President-elect Donald Trump, soon after it was clear he had won the November 5th election, with help from sky-high voter turnout. According to Associated Press elections data, more than 153 million ballots were cast. There are still votes being tallied in states like California, so that number will increase. One analyst says Kamala Harris's campaign did a pretty good job getting voters out, but clearly Donald Trump got more of his supporters to the polls. I'm Jackie Quinn.
Leaders in Columbus, Ohio, including an outraged Governor Mike DeWine, are condemning a weekend Nazi march through the streets of the state capitol. Correspondent Clayton Neville reports.
The group of neo-Nazis was seen marching around Columbus's short north Saturday afternoon. Police say multiple reports were made of the group carrying flags with swastikas and chanting racial slurs. Investigators still looking into specifics about the group. On Sunday, a group of black leaders in Columbus took to the streets with a march of their own.
We're here as black men, marching together, walking together, and it doesn't stop with this march. This is just the beginning of us doing something great in this city. Together, period.
Ohio State Senator Herschel Craig said the community won't stand for hate or racism.
Well, we're not hiding behind a mask.
You clearly see that. We have mayors that are here. We have other folks and just simply won't do it. My house, I can walk to my house from here. Not going to hide behind a mask. Not going to run. I see when this is so vile and so disrespectful, no, simply cannot be.
No arrests were made during the neo-Nazi march, according to police, but several people marching were detained. The mayor of Columbus put out a statement saying the city rejects what he calls the cowardly display. I'm Clayton Neville.
Business news is next on America in the Morning. Tariffs on imported goods, tax credits for electric vehicles, that and more ahead. We're back after these messages. Welcome back. You're with America in the Morning. The Business Report is brought to you by Fisher Investments. Fisher Investments takes a disciplined approach with investing, helping clients navigate volatile markets. Learn more at FisherInvestments.com. With the Monday edition, here's CNBC's Peter Schacknow.
Plenty of economic proposals are on the table for the incoming Trump administration. It's unclear which ones will actually make it to the finish line, making the job of figuring out the financial impact that much more difficult. One popular topic among CEOs is the potential for tariffs on imported goods, which President-elect Trump has vowed to implement when he takes office. And the topic has been popular even before Election Day. CNBC's Megan Casella says mentions of tariffs in recent third-quarter earnings conference calls amounted to more than in all of 2023.
One pattern we found is that when executives are asked how they plan to handle tariffs, there is no shortage of companies saying pretty clearly that they plan to pass the higher costs directly to consumers. They're also looking at sort of rerouting supply chains and limiting exposure on the front end.
While businesses mull over the potential for tariffs, a group representing electric vehicle and battery makers is urging Trump not to kill federal tax credits for electric vehicles. The Zero Emission Transportation Association says the tax credits have driven significant job growth in states like Ohio, Kentucky, Michigan, and Georgia. Tech stocks took a big hit last week as investors tried to figure out the potential implications of policy changes. But Amy Raskin, the chief investment officer at Chevy Chase Trust, says investors may be overthinking the matter.
I don't think the election really moves the needle for many of these companies, and I think there's still a lot to be determined about what the implications of the election are. So I'm not particularly surprised. I feel like we're continuing the trends that we sort of were experienced pre-election.
Ahead of all these potential changes, consumers have not been reluctant to spend in recent months. Retail sales were up a greater than expected 0.4% last month, helped by strong auto sales, and the government revised the September sales increase, doubling the original figure to show an 0.8% increase. That gives us an overall picture of retail sales ahead of the holiday season. Now we're set to find out how individual retailers are doing, with Walmart, Target, Lowe's, Gap, and BJ's Wholesale among the individual retailers reporting quarterly earnings this week.
Part of Fed Chairman Jerome Powell's comments last week, lower interest rates in a cautious fashion. How are investors taking that?
So far, not well. The stock market slumped Thursday and Friday in the wake of those comments, leading to the worst week for the S&P and NASDAQ since the beginning of September. But Goldman Sachs chief economist Jan Hatzius predicts rate cutting will continue.
We do expect a cut at the December meeting. It's true that the recent data have been a little hotter, so there's probably more risk to that. But I also think that the funds rate is still quite high, and I think they will want to bring that down.
The Fed next meets on December 17th and 18th.
CNBC's Peter Schacknow. When we return on America in the Morning, Giuliani forks it over after these messages. Welcome back. You're with America in the Morning. Following a court hearing and an admonishment from the judge, Rudy Giuliani has turned over some of his luxury items stemming from a defamation case. Lisa Dwyer reports.
Rudy Giuliani has relinquished dozens of watches and a Mercedes once owned by movie star Lauren Bacall to two former Georgia election workers who won a $148 million defamation judgment against him. Giuliani's lawyer says that the watches and a ring have been delivered to a bank in Atlanta. The 1980 Mercedes-Benz SL 500 was turned over at an address in Florida, and an undisclosed amount of funds from Giuliani's Citibank accounts were also surrendered. Giuliani was ordered last week to immediately turn over his prized assets after missing an October 29th deadline. I'm Lisa Dwyer.
There is an unusually large supply of very small, but maybe not so very popular pets in New England. Correspondent Ed Donahue reports.
The shelter along New Hampshire's seacoast got a call from a man saying he wanted to give up 150 mice. He first brought in about 75 mice.
Over the next 3 days, we received almost 500 mice.
Lisa Dennison with the New Hampshire Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals says the man actually had 150 cases of mice.
A female that's, say, 6 months old could have 10 to 14 perhaps. Like you can only imagine, out of 500 mice, 50% of them are female.
That's more than 1,000 mice. The facility at most takes in about 125 animals a day.
Crippling, really.
People like Alicia Murphy are stepping in to adopt some mice.
I could help out. We have all the setup and everything I need at home already, so I figured, what the hell.
Other shelters have agreed to take some of the mice, and some are being sent to foster homes. I'm Ed Donahue.
America in the Morning for Monday, November 18th, 2024 is produced by Jeff McKay. Senior producer Kevin Delaney. I'm John Trout. This is Westwood One. This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. I'm John Trout. Coming up this half hour, skeptical GOP concerns over 2 Donald Trump cabinet appointments.
Republican leaders considering potential recess appointments. I'm Clayton Neville.
President Biden saw the devastation of drought firsthand as the first American president to set foot in the Amazon rainforest. I'm Julie Walker.
Smoky conditions from wildfires in the Bronx. I'm Bob Brown. I'll have that story coming up next.
Another massive data breach by, surprise, Chinese hackers. I'm Chuck Palm.
McDonald's is investing $100 million to bring customers back. I'm Shelley Adler.
It's beginning to look a lot like Christmas at the box office. I'm Kevin Carr.
Back after these messages. This is America in the Morning. So what kind of day are we looking at? Here's AccuWeather.com meteorologist Matt Rindy.
It will be a milder day across the eastern 2/3 of the country, even in areas where rain is expected today. Highs will climb into the 50s and 60s in most northern states from Minnesota to southern New England, and then warm into the 70s and 80s farther south from southeast Texas through the Gulf Coast and into Florida. Most areas will be dry from the southeast into the middle Atlantic. There will be a few showers across northern New York into northern New England, where highs will be in the 40s, and there could even be a few snow showers mixing in the northern mountains. Meanwhile, a powerful storm will continue to move into the Plains states today. The impacts are going to be widespread, with a few heavy, gusty thunderstorms moving through central and eastern Texas this morning, and then rain through central plains will continue to spread northward through the northern plains into the Great Lakes late today. And a few of the thunderstorms in Texas this morning will have the potential for damaging winds, flash flooding, hail, and even a tornado. And the rain farther north will become heavy at times, especially through northern Oklahoma into eastern Kansas, Nebraska, and western Iowa, where some localized flooding is possible from that as well. Rain will continue to build northward toward the Canadian border tonight, with colder air wrapping into the system, causing rain to change to snow in parts of North Dakota. And that colder air is in part from a storm moving through the northern Rockies. This will cause some rain and snow showers as far west as Washington and Oregon, and continuing into Nevada, Idaho, Montana, Utah, and Wyoming. Some of the higher elevations could receive several inches of snow, and these areas are about 5 to 15 degrees below the historical average. We are continuing to watch tropical rain storm Sarah entering the Gulf of Mexico. That could enhance some rain along the Gulf Coast. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist Matt Rindy.
I'm John Trout. Remember to follow us wherever you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, Amazon, and YouTube. Just search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. President-elect Donald Trump spent all of last week lining up his choices to join his cabinet when he takes office in January. However, two of his picks are facing pushback from members of his own party. Correspondent Jackie Quinn reports while the Speaker of the House is supporting Donald Trump's pick for Attorney General and Defense Secretary, the House Minority Leader has reservations.
The top leader in the House says he doesn't see a need to release an ethics report into sex and drug allegations against the former congressman picked to become Donald Trump's Attorney General.
I don't know anything about the contents of the report because the way the rules work, of course, the Speaker of the House can't put a thumb on the scale or be involved in an ethics committee report. What I do know is that the comments about this being there's a precedent for releasing reports is not exactly accurate. Yeah, there are two breaches of the tradition in the past under very extraordinary circumstances. I don't think this meets that criteria.
House Speaker Mike Johnson on Fox News Sunday says he doesn't see a need to release an ethics investigation now ended surrounding newly resigned Florida Congressman Matt Gaetz, tabbed for Attorney General.
He's one of the brightest minds in Washington or anywhere for that matter, and he knows everything about how the Department of Justice has been weaponized and misused, and he will be a reformer, and I think that's why the establishment in Washington is so shaken up about this pick.
And Johnson says if needed, he might help President-elect Donald Trump push through some recess appointments.
They have sent the message that America First policies should be the rule of the day. So the persons that the president is choosing will help with that agenda. They will take their leadership in these agencies and they will reform them as the people expect and demand. So we'll evaluate all that at the appropriate time and we'll make the appropriate decision. There may be a function for that and we'll have to see how it plays out.
House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries on that ethics report on NBC's Meet the Press.
Of course it should be released, and that's not just Democrats saying that. They want access to all available information so they can make a decision about whether the nominee for Attorney General is qualified to serve in that office.
Before resigning from Congress last week, Gaetz was under investigation for alleged sexual misconduct, illicit drug use, and accepting improper gifts.
The incoming president, throughout the campaign, promised the American people that we would have the best economy, the best border security, and the best administration possible. The question that has to be asked, is this the best that we can do in the context of some of these nominations?
I'm Jackie Quinn.
Republican leaders in Congress say they would potentially support recess appointments to get President-elect Donald Trump's cabinet appointees confirmed without Senate confirmation hearings. Correspondent Clayton Neville reports.
A recess appointment happens when a president bypasses the Senate's job to confirm cabinet nominees and appoints them on their own during a period when the House and Senate aren't in session for at least 10 days. Senator John Thune was recently elected majority leader in the Senate when the new Congress is sworn in. Well, he floated the idea of cabinet appointees when he spoke with Fox News.
What I said is, Brett, and I think this is that all options are on the table, including recess appointments. Hopefully it doesn't get to that, but we'll find out fairly quickly whether the Democrats want to play ball or not. And I think part of it is getting these folks. We'll start having confirmation hearings as soon as the new Senate is sworn in January. President takes the oath of office January 20th. By the time he takes the oath of office, hopefully a lot of those nominees will be through their confirmation hearings and will be ready to act on them on the Senate floor. And then it's a question of how much do the Democrats resist or object or try to block those nominations from going forward. And we're going to grind them out. I mean, we're just going to keep consistently moving, and we'll see what kind of cooperation we get.
There's been some strong pushback by Democrats over picks like RFK Jr. for Trump's HHS secretary and Matt Gaetz for Attorney General. House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries believes that some members of Congress are concerned about Gaetz resigning from his seat to take the job amid a House ethics investigation into Gaetz.
You have repeatedly seen Senate Republicans make clear, who are on the Senate Judiciary Committee or throughout that chamber, say that they want access to all available information so they can make a decision about whether the nominee for Attorney General is qualified to serve in that office.
Jeffrey spoke with NBC's Meet the Press.
We will protect Social Security. We will protect Medicare. We will protect the Affordable Care Act. We will protect reproductive freedom.
House Speaker Mike Johnson was on Fox News Sunday. He left the door open to adjourning Congress so that recess appointments could essentially happen.
Listen, I believe in the principle of a new president being able to choose his team, and that used to not be a controversial notion. We're in a time of very divided government and a very partisan atmosphere in Washington. I wish it were not. I wish the Senate would simply do its job of advice and consent and allow the president to put the persons in his cabinet of his choosing.
No clear decision yet, and Trump still naming members to his team. I'm Clayton Neville.
In Israel, there's a renewed plea for the release of hostages held by Hamas terrorists in Gaza now for over 13 months. And relatives are asking President-elect Donald Trump to intervene. Correspondent Nayoon Kim reports.
Relatives of hostages held in Gaza have implored U.S. President-elect Donald Trump to act now to save the hostages. At a weekly protest in Tel Aviv, Saha Moore, whose relative is still held in Gaza, asked Trump to do everything in his power to end the war.
The hostages will not survive the winter. They won't even survive till your inauguration in January. Please, save our hostages. They need you to act now.
Israel says about 100 are still being held, though not all are believed to be alive. It comes as its military released a video of its chief of staff saying they would keep fighting and hit Hezbollah very hard if the group continued to launch projectiles into the country. Israel has been striking deeper inside Lebanon since September as it escalated the war against Hezbollah. I'm Nayoon Kim.
America in the Morning continues this Monday. Up next, you'll hear about one pollster's election miscalculation and what country is behind the latest cybersecurity threat to our nation. Those stories and more after these messages. I'm John Trout. Welcome back. This is America in the Morning. During his official first trip to South America, one of President Joe Biden's stops included an historic visit to the Amazon rainforest. Correspondent Julie Walker reports.
President Biden saw the devastation of drought firsthand as the first American president to set foot in the Amazon rainforest.
Some may seek to deny or delay the clean energy revolution that's underway in America. But nobody can reverse it. Nobody. Now when so many people, regardless of party or politics, are enjoying its benefits.
Touring the area Sunday and pledging that nobody can reverse what he says is the clean energy revolution underway in America, even as the incoming Trump administration is poised to scale back the U.S. commitment to combating climate change.
We don't have to choose between the environment and the economy. We can do both. We've proven it back home. It's no secret that I'm leaving office in January. I will leave my successor and my country a strong foundation to build on if they choose to do so.
Biden announcing new efforts to help the Amazon rainforest, including financing reforestation and land protection. I'm Julie Walker.
Smoke continues to pour into New York City from wind-driven wildfires as Bob Brown reports from New York. The combination of numerous fires along with the growing drought conditions has many in the Northeast concerned.
New York City remains in a moderate to severe drought heading into a new week. Red flag warnings will remain up with a high risk of wildfires. Wildfires in the Bronx spreading smoke over Manhattan with many residents keeping their windows shut, including myself. Drought and red flag warnings continue in New Jersey and Connecticut as well. Northwest of New York City in Orange County, firefighters have their hands full fighting the stubborn Jennings Creek fire. A state of emergency declared Saturday in Orange County with voluntary evacuations. WABC TV in New York talking with emergency officials.
Certainly hope and believe that these homes will not be impacted by the fire, but our main priority right now is getting fire apparatus into the neighborhoods that could be affected by this fire, and it would be much easier for these firefighters to work and for us to feel peace knowing that these residents have left already.
Forecasters say this has been the longest drought on record for much of the region. However, there is some hope for relief. Forecasters say New York City and much of the Northeast could see a substantial amount of rain Thursday and Friday. Bob Brown, New York.
A veteran pollster says she's done with election polling after her pre-election poll in Iowa inaccurately showed Vice President Kamala Harris ahead of President-elect Donald Trump in the state he had easily won in 2016 and 2020. J.N. Selzer created a stir after her Des Moines Register Mediacom Iowa poll 3 days before the election had Harris leading by 7 points. Days later, Trump would easily win Iowa by 13 points. Trump is calling for an investigation, saying the poll was, quote, possible election fraud, end quote. Selzer called the poll the biggest miss of her career. America in the Morning continues. Cybersecurity threat uncovered with ties to the Chinese government. The worm lurking in major telecom provider networks for at least the past 8 months. Here's Chuck Palm with that in today's Tech Report.
Those Chinese hackers are at it again. T-Mobile has had a massive cyber attack from hackers with ties to Chinese intelligence and has infiltrated multiple U.S. and international telecom companies, including AT&T and Verizon, who was already recovering from a major outage last week. A company spokesperson said that T-Mobile is closely monitoring this industry-wide attack and that at this time, T-Mobile systems and data have not been impacted in any significant way. According to a report on the Wall Street Journal, the breach was part of a months-long operation that allowed attackers to spy on cell phone communications of key individuals, raising concerns about potential national security ramifications. U.S. officials have referred to this cyber espionage campaign as both historic and catastrophic. The scope of this attack, which has persisted for over 8 months, has allowed hackers access to sensitive information, including those of senior U.S. national security and government officials. For up-to-date tech news, follow me on X at Chuck Palm.
Here's Robert Workman with a check of Monday sports.
NFL Week 11 Sunday, the Bills beat the Chiefs 30-21, ending the two-time defending Super Bowl champions' bid for an undefeated season. Josh Allen led 2 fourth-quarter touchdown drives. One ended with a 12-yard scoring pass to Curtis Samuel. Allen did the honors himself on the other, a 26-yard TD run with 2:17 left to clinch it. Coach Sean McDermott.
To win against a team that's won back-to-back Super Bowls and coached by Andy Reid and quarterbacked by Patrick Mahomes, it's always going to be tough. These games that we've played have always been close.
Patrick Mahomes had 3 touchdown passes, but Kansas City is now 9-1. Also 9-1, the Lions, who roared past the Jaguars 52-6. 4 TD passes for Jared Goff.
It's fun. We were moving the ball pretty good. I thought our run game was really good. Our passing game obviously was pretty good too, and everything's working.
Elsewhere, Bo Nix threw 4 scores as the Broncos battered the Falcons. Rams over the Patriots. Matthew Stafford with 4 passing touchdowns. Taysom Hill rushed for 3 touchdowns as the Saints slashed the Browns. Last-minute heroics for the Packers, Colts, Seahawks, and last night the Chargers. Wins for the Dolphins, Vikings, and Steelers. NBA, rare air for the Cavaliers. They're now 15-0 after last night's 128-114 win over the Hornets. Only one team has ever had a better start to an NBA season. The Warriors won their first 24 games 9 years ago to set the record. Julius Randle hit a 3-ball at the buzzer to lift the Timberwolves over the Suns. Wins for the Pacers, Grizzlies, Pistons, Blazers, Knicks, Rockets, Clippers, and Mavericks. NHL, Alex Ovechkin's hat trick led the Capitals to a 5-2 win over the Golden Knights. That makes 866 goals for Ovechkin. He's 29 away from passing Wayne Gretzky. Wins for the Predators, Hurricanes, and Rangers. That's Monday Sports.
Thank you, Robert. When we return on America in the Morning, Titanic memorabilia at auction after these messages. This is America in the Morning. Following their E. coli concern, McDonald's is working hard to get their customers back. Correspondent Shelley Adler reports.
McDonald's is investing $100 million to bring customers back after a recent E. coli outbreak. The fast food chain is trying to lure customers back after an outbreak of E. coli tied to onions on McDonald's Quarter Pounders. Those, by the way, are back on the menu. The investments include $65 million that will go directly to the hardest-hit franchises. According to federal health officials, Colorado reported at least 30 cases, while Montana had 19. Overall, at least 104 people got sick and 34 went to the hospital. I'm Shelley Adler.
10 days away from Thanksgiving, but already Christmas movies are taking over the box office. Kevin Carr reports.
Last night, Red One, also known as St. Nicholas of Myra, was abducted from the North Pole complex.
Red One, the Dwayne Johnson action flick about an evil witch kidnapping Santa Claus, got $34 million in its stocking. That's slightly ahead of expectations, but it's still unclear if that's a success for this $250 million budgeted movie that was originally planned for streaming.
We've come a long way, you and me. We are strong.
Venom: The Last Dance had to settle for second place with $7.3 million. This third and final Venom movie is making less than its predecessors, but still doing well on its mid-sized budget.
It might be the first Christmas pageant in history where Joseph and the wise men get in a fight, and Mary hightails it with the baby.
In third place was the other Yuletide film, The Best Christmas Pageant Ever, with $5.4 million. That's a solid hold for this feel-good family film leading up to the holidays.
What does this have to do with us leaving?
Everything.
Fourth place belonged to Heretic with $5.2 million. This Hugh Grant thriller has scared up a tidy sum against its modest $10 million budget.
You can call me Roz.
And finally, the beloved animated film The Wild Robot rounds out the top 5 with $4.3 million. Holding exceptionally well week to week, Roz and her family have earned more than $300 million worldwide. I'm Kevin Carr.
A famous timepiece and the most expensive article of Titanic memorabilia was sold at auction. Correspondent Karen Shamas reports.
A gold pocket watch given to the ship captain who rescued 700 survivors from the Titanic sold at auction for nearly $2 million, setting a record for memorabilia from the shipwreck. The 18-carat Tiffany & Co. watch was given by 3 women survivors to Captain Arthur Rostron for diverting his passenger ship, the RMS Carpathia, to save them and others after the Titanic struck an iceberg and sank in the North Atlantic on its maiden voyage in 1912. Auctioneers Henry Aldridge and Son, who sold the watch to a private collector in the United States for 1.56 million British pounds, that's about $1.97 million, said it's the most paid for a piece of Titanic memorabilia. Karen Shamas, London.
And that's our show for today, Monday, November 18th, 2024. America in the Morning is produced by Jeff McKay. Senior producer Kevin Delaney. I'm John Trout. This is Westwood One.